even put myself on Do Not Disturb. There we go.
Awesome. Alrighty, guys. I hope everyone is doing well. It's your boy Veedu Vids back in the house. It's been a long time. I hope everyone is doing well. I've been waiting a long time to get this man back on the live stream. He's one of the most sought after guests. People have been requesting me for so long. Get this man back on the stream. Cause controversy, havoc, waves, all the rest of it. So I'm really happy to have you back on, Ace. How you doing, bro?
Thank you. You've given me some good compliments for that. I appreciate it.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good. So, before we get into it, I just want to quickly show something to everyone watching. And this is something that myself and Mimzy, my wife, will be doing in a couple of weeks' time. And I think it'll be great because I think we've been getting a lot of comments recently, especially my wife, as she's been doing her live streams, around once you've left religion, what do you do? How do you then create your new identity? How do you then create purpose in your life? How do you heal your past traumas, family relationships, whether it be romantic relationships or family ones, friends, hobbies, so on and so forth? Your whole life can be turned upside down after leaving a religion. So we're hosting a free webinar on the 28th of February, 7 p.m. Myself and Mimzy will be there. How to create a new identity after leaving religion. If you want access to that, if you want to sign up, please look at the comment section. It's a free sign up. It's the StreamYard link, and we'll be there to go through the webinar and take your questions. And I'm sure it'll be really beneficial. A lot of people have been asking these questions. That's why we've created it, and we've tested this out on multiple people before, and they've had really fantastic results. So if you're not signed up, please sign up, and we'll see you on the other side. Fantastic. Now, back to you, Ace, bro. Listen, it's been a long time since we last spoke. I think it's been at least maybe 3-4 years now. We spoke pre-pandemic, which almost seems like a different world, a different reality almost. So much has happened, I'm sure, around the world, also in my personal life as well. I've got kids. That completely changes your perspective on life. And you reached out to me to be like, bro, I've heard you back on YouTube. Let's link up. And I was like, you know what, man, I really need this right now. So tell me what's been happening for Ace Jaceen in the last 3-4 years. How you've been doing? What's happened? Give us a bit of an update.
Just a couple of changes here and there.
Okay.
But I'm glad that we've been able to sit down together and have a conversation again. I feel like it's very needed, especially with the last video, as to how much traction it really received. And there was a lot of individuals that were really interested in our conversation. There's been many changes since then. Of course, I've been working on everything on my side of the things, making sure that, you know, my plans and my goals and my dreams come into fruition correctly. And I've been working a lot more with the youth. I've been working with different organizations. I've been learning a lot. And I'm actually very glad that we're able to reach out to one another and be able to sit down and have this conversation. I feel like it's going to be very imperative for a lot of people to learn from this and have a deeper insight as to what we're doing as well.
So before you get into how you've been helping with the youth, and I've seen your Instagram. So if you haven't checked out Ace's Instagram, what's your Instagram handle, by the way, just so people can check it out?
It's Jaceen.camp. So JACEEN for November, and then full stop, and then CAMP like camp.
Okay, I'll put it in the comments. I've just typed in Jaceen.camp.
Appreciate it.
Insta. So before we get into that, and there's some really interesting and genuinely inspirational things I've seen on there. Before we get into that, just a quick almost reflection and review of your last or your first appearance on this channel. I remember when you first came on, even before you'd even come on, when I announced that I'm having Ace Jaceen on, there was a lot of interest, and people were like, "This guy's hard hitting. He just says what he just says it how he sees it, no filter, brave, courageous." A lot of people were like, "Oh man, he's so street. He's this, he's that." And of course now, mashallah, you're such a decent human being. Alhamdulillah, you're transformed. Yeah. So actually, when you look back on that period, like tell me when you look back on that period, like what has transformed you, or what was going through your mind back then, and how do you feel now? Like, what's that
Sure.
contrast?
The reality is, I've not really had much experience prior to this one. Is with podcasts and speaking online too much with other individuals, and I was really angry at some point, and naturally my characteristics were coming out in ways that didn't need to at that point. I didn't have the stillness I have today. I didn't have the
Mm,
emotional awareness I have today. I didn't have the complete understandings that I do today. And it's a journey. It's a, one of life's great mysteries is understanding what succeeding is about. And if it
mm,
isn't about consistently making failure after failure after failure, as long as you're able to learn from them, as long as you'll be able to accept that these are my mistakes and I have to grow from this space, it's not truly a failure. It's just a learning curve along the
yeah.
way. And it's a great pleasure for myself as well to be able to look back at myself and say I've changed a lot. Even the person I was 6 months ago, the change and the growth has been impressive, even for others to state so. And
Yeah.
I just will continue to dedicate myself to. In Jaceen, we have a saying: "I will always be better than the man I was yesterday, but never will I be as good as I will be tomorrow." So,
Mm.
I look forward to tomorrow, and I appreciate the past as well because it's been a great lesson on my journey. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. I think I don't know if when we last spoke, it was how um how soon after you sorry how close that was to you leaving Islam, because I know when a lot of people leave Islam, or any religion, especially one that's quite controlling or quite dominating in terms of, everyone says, oh, Islam is not necessarily, it's a way of life, so literally everything in your life is affected by it, right?
mhm,
It can be, you can feel quite angry, and I felt angry and disappointed, like, man, like I was living this kind of like lie or illusion, and like the people around me, like I felt like I've been betrayed or like lied, and now I have to figure all this stuff out by myself again and rebuild yourself. I don't know if that was one of the causing, or one of the causes for that anger or rage, or if it was some other thing. But definitely, I felt that, and a lot of other people feel that initial anger, like, man, this is
mm,
like when you come out of the matrix, it's that kind of feeling, you know?
mm. Yeah. I mean, the the big thing that was impacting me directly was it was just honestly it was just a part of my character. It was just me being very raw, like you were saying.
Mm,
And I just didn't have anybody that really taught me about how to control it in certain manners. And like back then, I used to smoke weed here and there, and I didn't even like even in our last conversation, I'm just casually smoking on live, and my mind was completely different. I was doing different
yeah,
types of things. I wasn't really like I was still doing. We don't need to go too deep into it, but I was
sure.
still doing illegal activities. So my
Feds, you
my
didn't hear that. You didn't hear that on this channel.
Yeah, so so naturally, obviously, I was like I said, I was kind of fresh out of
Mm,
prison, and I was still, yeah, man, I just wasn't the man that I am today,
yeah.
and even though I was raw and I was saying certain things in a specific way, which could have come across quite rude, I didn't actually state anything that was untrue. It's just sometimes there's a flair, there's a way of stating
Mm,
things in the right context, in the right place, amongst the right people, and there's an education required to be able to do so correctly. Because otherwise, the message that you're trying to give to people will not correlate with their acceptance,
yeah.
and you have to flow correctly to be able to be accepted by anybody. Even your worst enemy could be on the other end. You don't need to demean him. You don't need to put them down. You don't need to subjugate them in any way for them to turn their back on you. And it is our duty as men, or women, to continuously look to better ourselves. And I'm my own biggest critic, and I'm a student as well. So I have to consistently look at what can become better within myself. I don't want to be the same individual like any
Yeah.
other person. Most people, when they look at themselves, from yesterday, a month ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They've hardly changed. They've just aged.
Yeah.
You're just in a body dying slowly,
You're just getting
and
older, but you're not getting any wiser
exactly,
again.
and
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is a horrid experience for us. The purpose is that knowledge never stops until the day that you have to physically leave this reality. And until that day comes, I will continue to grow and better myself. And just as I'm proud of myself, or I've got the humility to accept my growth today, in 6 months' time, I'll be looking back at myself today and be looking like, ugh, I wasn't doing this, or I wasn't
Mm,
doing that, or and that's the beauty of growth. So
that is.
yeah, man.
Well, I mean, that's a very good point, and I think a lot of the times, especially, and I know I mentioned this before around the whole trying to find yourself or create a new identity after you leave religion or Islam, or even if it's not religious per se, when you stop a certain phase in your life and you're trying to create a new phase or a new way of thinking, it is growth, but it's also pain, and people don't understand that they're two sides of the same coin. And you don't get growth without pain. You don't get growth without looking back and sort of cringing, like, and not just you but me as well. But, oh man, did I really say that? Or did I really do that? Did I really think that? But whatever it is,
Mm.
back in the days. But it's part of the process. And you mentioned it there about being a man, and I've titled this about sort of around what does it mean to be a modern man, or masculinity in the modern age.
Mm.
And maybe we can get into what some of the work you've been doing around your youth. So, could you just, for people who don't know what you've been doing, could you tell people about what your camps are all about? And I know you mentioned it before.
Sure, thank you. So just to kind of touch on to religion. With religion, I believe it's not even a belief. I think it's a process in an individual's journey. Now that journey may not be understood in just one lifetime. It can take multiple lifetimes for you to truly comprehend where you're at and what state you're in. But to believe in something, you must not know it. You can only believe in that which you do not know. Me and you know that right now we are having a discussion together. It's not a belief process, it's a knowing. Me and you know that right now we're using technology to communicate. Me and you know that both of us have red blood cells going through our body. Me and you know that we live in this planet we call Earth. Me and you know that we've come from two human beings, a mother and a father. It could be anybody. You might not even know
Mm,
who the father or the mother is. That is not an objective fact. But
yeah.
one objective reality to it is the fact that we know that we come from two human beings that procreated, that conceived us 9 months later, or 8 months, or it depends how long you took to come out. We came out of our mother's wombs or wherever, and we're living and thriving now. To believe is that which you do not know. I cannot believe that I am a human being. I know this. I cannot believe that I need water to survive. I know this. I cannot believe that I need oxygen to survive. I know this. So, belief is a process of thinking where you have to not know to believe. And what happens is there's knowing when you think of it logically, there's not knowing, and belief falls in the middle. Not knowing is you having the humility to say, I do not know this. I will try and learn, or I will leave it be and I don't want to learn. Another process is you saying you know something and you can bring evidence or proof to substantiate whatever that point was. The ignorant individual or the ignorant state of mind has to say, I believe. Belief is the absence of truth. And to believe, it is an ignorant state of being to say, I don't know, but I'm going to cover this up with what I believe it to be, with zero evidence, zero proof, zero logic as well. Because logic always correlates with truth. Always. If somebody says something which is illogical, it cannot be true. And logic, by definition, you don't need physical evidence for it. You can actually break it down via logic and it will make sense to anybody. So if you was to ask me a question, I may not have the physical evidence of something, but if I broke it down to you logically, then it makes sense. Something which is illogical cannot make sense. So if somebody said to me, the God of this entire universe is merciful, that will be your premise one to state that point. If I replied to you and said, does this God have a hell? And you said yes, that cancels out the first premise. Why? Because you cannot be the most merciful and also at the same point have a place, a dominion, which is hell and fire and all sorts, and it is the worst place in the entire universe. That even if all the intelligent creatures of all the galaxies and all the universes came together, they would not be able to create a torture chamber the same way that this God has done. So this cancels out that logical statement that God is merciful. You cannot be the most merciful and the most evil at the same point. That's like saying you can be dead
Mm.
and alive at the same point. You can only be one or the other. You cannot state these things. You cannot state that. So if I was to say to you logically, as you understand, the greater you earn, the greater your knowledge of consciousness, or the greater your knowledge of any type of knowledge, whether it's logic, whether it's science, whether it's understanding of the universe, whether it's spirituality, some people call it, which again is a heebie-jeebie form of understanding of what's real.
Mm.
But if somebody was to say to you, the greater that they attain knowledge, would you accept that the more free that individual is?
Mm.
Would that
Yeah.
make logical point? Why? Because the more you know, the more avenues you have to do, to think, to process,
Yeah.
to question. The lower, the less you know, the more enslaved you are mentally. And the basic fundamental logical point I can give is an animal, any animal, and a human being. Every animal that exists in this world knows less objectively in many avenues than humans do. And as much as animals are free in their state of being, they are not free as the way that we are because we can choose to do certain things. I mean, hell, you got some men choosing to become women. You got some men choosing to do, I don't know, play ping pong, or some guys
Yeah.
are trying to become professional financiers. Some people are becoming professional swimmers. Animals cannot do this. They have to abide by the way that they are processed to survive in the way that they do. And the more an individual is ascribed to a survival mechanism, the less freedom they have to grow, to learn, to understand, to become better as well. So,
Mm.
again, why did I mention this point? Because my point is the closer you become to God, the closer your understanding of God, or the energy behind this universe, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, whatever, these are just words ascribed to something deeper. The greater you know this fundamental knowledge, and the most basic way that we can understand God, let's not even call it God, let's just call it knowledge. Because knowledge has no body, it has no wants, it has no needs. It is just knowledge. In the most fundamental, basic understanding of reality, there's either knowledge or the absence of knowledge. There's either what is and what isn't. And if you think in the simplest form, what is, it has to be knowledge, because without knowledge, nothing can exist. So, the closer you become to this knowledge, the more free you become. The further away you become from this knowledge, the more enslaved you are. So then certain religions state that you are a slave of God, but how can you be a slave of the fundamental reality of the universe? This doesn't make sense.
Mm.
So this is another premise that is illogical, and many, many more. So I don't even go into the focus of trying to dissuade religious minded individuals. I try to see how consciously intelligent they are. There's three mechanisms to the mind, main basic mechanisms. One is your reptilian state, which is the survival mechanism where it's just having sex, running around, eating food, getting food, fight or flight. And we can see low IQ individuals tend to exist in this frame of mind consistently. They're either very violent, they're either very sexualized. We can see in the music and the art forms as well. Those women that display themselves extremely provocatively, they have less respect. Respect acquires knowledge. Without knowledge, you cannot have respect, which is why even men who lack respect don't have as much knowledge and they are disrespected individuals. Why? Because the fundamental reality that they need is knowledge to exist, to exceed. Knowledge is not just knowing. Knowledge, real knowledge is doing, because without doing, you don't truly show that you have that knowledge.
Hmm.
If I just know and say things, but I never do it, I'm not as intelligible or knowledgeable as the individual that does.
Yeah.
So he's the definition of knowledge, not me. So in this aspect, the lower forms of respect that we have, the less knowledge that we have, the less knowledge that we have, the more demented we are. The more demented we are, the more we exist in this reptilian state of mind. The second part of the mind is the logical state. This is when you're able to comprehend logic. This is a higher form of intelligence. A small amount of individuals in this world exist that have this frame of knowledge. These individuals are able to process things correctly. They do not abide by cognitive dissonance. So if you say to me, look, I believe that Santa Claus rides around on with a bunch of reindeer every Christmas, which is what kids believe in. Many kids believe in this. And if I was to say to them, look, Santa Claus doesn't do that, that doesn't make sense. First of all, how could Santa Claus go to every single home, whatever the reasonings are? Now, there's children that will be able to understand this, and there will be children that don't have the capabilities of understanding. In this place, you can actually see who's got some logical understanding, who doesn't. If there's religious minds, and they say to me, for example, I don't know, Jesus was the perfect example, Jesus was God, right? Simply, just a and I say to him, then why did Jesus pray to himself, but he called God the Father, but then he is the Father, but then he's in this reality? Why is he asking for help for something separate than himself? Straight away, this doesn't make sense. In the beginning of the Bible, when God says God created the world in 6 days and he rested on the seventh, and you say to a Jew or Christian, and you say, do you have the capability to understand that the earth revolves around the sun every 24 hours? That is what we call a day. So, what days are you speaking of?
Hmm.
Is it the days that were preconceived before the sun was created? And when he said, let there be light, where did this light come from? Because the light we take in from this earth is from the sun. And how did God, more importantly, how did God work for 6 days and he rested? This mean that he's got a limited amount of power where he has to have a Sabbath or rest day like me and you do?
Cheat
This,
day. Yeah.
yeah, this is clearly a human misconception of the idea of the divine or God or whatever people would like to call it. This is illogically stated. So, in that state, you have to comprehend that this person is incapable of logical thought. You don't need to keep poking him with logic. His brain hasn't evolved to a state of mind yet to be able to conceive this. That is what used to make me upset because I didn't have this understanding. Now that I do, I'm able to flow correctly with these individuals. The highest form of mind is the conscious mind. This is the mind that just directly flows with whatever it is, logic, beliefs, whatever it may be. He might understand something, and the way, if it's been broken down to him and shown to him in a concise manner, he should be able to completely accept, understand, and evolve from that state of mind. This is a extremely tiny proportion of people that exist in the world. And our duty, our goal in Jaceen is to elevate, because the most important thing you can do to any creature, whether it's a human or not, is to evolve them consciously, because the body follows anyway, it has to. But once you evolve the conscious state, everything else will follow in that regard.
Hmm. So you mentioned in Jaceen. So is that like the name of your group or like I mean company or like how would you define it?
So everything that we do is Jaceen now. Now, Jaceen is a word that we created pretty much to have a name for something.
Hmm.
Jaceen, the way that we translate it is whether you call it knowledge, whether you call it righteous, whether you call it apotheosis, whether you call it the essence of life, It has many meanings depending on who you ask, but the meaning is fundamental to one, and that is the side of what's righteous, what is true, what is good, what is right. And everything that we do is Yasin now, because we have a company, we have a health company that we work with, and we work with completely organic products, skin serums, hair serums, alpha, which I give you, you know, a little warning. You take alpha, just make sure you go easy with your night, because it's dangerous. But so for those young guys, don't take too much alpha. And so yeah, we've got different products that really elevate individuals mentally, physically, allow them to excel in their sports, in their avenues. And these are completely organic products. These are completely natural products, and that's the company side of things. Then, of course, the main purpose of Jacine, of what we do, is to when what the way I've been taught by my mentors, by my teachers, is the greatest thing we can do is to help humanity, the help individuals, allow them to progress, allow them to elevate, allow them to learn and grow. And true prosperity is allowing them to understand what a good friend is, how to be respectful, how to have integrity, how to have dignity, how to have self-respect, how to exude that out into the world correctly. How to be a great example, not just to your family, not just to your friends, but everybody. If I spend some time, 5 minutes with any individual, I have to have an impact on them that could leave a positive, lasting impression. My duty is to look at what is wrong in the world and see those problems and be able to create a supplement in some ways that can really, really help these individuals, whether it's whether somebody's failing through finances, whether somebody's failing in their marriage, whether somebody's failing as a father, whether somebody's failing as a friend. It all comes down to their conscious understanding of what their purpose is, how they dedicate themselves. And the greatest way that we can excel collectively is not through individualism, which society has so well made it out to be. Yes, there's benefits to being an individual and in an individualistic society. Yes, there's benefits and positives to being unique. But the greatest way, a way that can even excel individualism, is to work as a community, to work together. And even myself and yourself, we come from a background where it would be a great, amazing, beautiful day when everybody came together to the home, eating together, whether it's dancing together, playing music together, playing cards, simple things, just because of that community aspect of things. And some of the most successful people that exist work in strong communities. When we talk about the Jews and Sikhs, two religious backgrounds that we speak of, these are the most wealthiest religious people that exist as a community. And
Sorry, so my phone just sorry, go on.
that's all right, bro. And both of them work very, very well in communities. They share knowledge with one another. They share insight with one another. For example, Jews have this way of doing business where if there's 10 Jews, what they'll do is they'll create they'll focus on what the most important aspects are that they need to focus on to contribute to the community. And let's say I know you and you're a non-Jew and you're selling, I don't know, a box of tissues for 50p, and the Jew is selling it for £2. I will rather buy it from him just because he's a Jew. And at the same point, I'll look at your product, I'll see where you're lacking, and I'll see where you're actually excelling. Then I'll come to my Jew friend and say, look, this is what you need to do to better your product. This is what you need to do till he becomes successful. Once he's done, then he can run it. Then we can start with the next person. So for me, it's like this is the basis of humanity. When we are all separate, thinking by ourselves, nobody's worried about the next person, which is the toxic, poisonous culture that has been created in the Western world. That's where your trannies and your all sorts of individuals come about. The lost individuals. The Every time you speak to a gang member, and I used to be a gang man. I've known many gang members, and I still do. A huge part of their life that's missing is the aspect of a righteous community. So
Mm.
what do? They dement themselves to a poisonous community, a toxic one, because even that toxic one is better than them being an individual
By
alone.
themselves, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. They
Mm.
require protection, they require safety, they require guidance, and in their own way, in their own conscious state, that is what's best for them. So for me, it's like bringing men together, young guys, allowing them to abide and understand one specific culture. That culture is excellence in all ways. We don't just teach them physics. I mean, there's 90% of the things we don't even show because people are not ready for that, and that's where it's based on the camps. It's about their conscious, elevation. It's their mental elevation. We got all the young guys reading consistently. They have to be educated every single week. They have to send in like their breakdowns and their chapters of what this means and how this means and what does this translate to. Everybody has to be abiding by their politics. I've got the black guys looking into black revolutionists. I got the Asians looking at the Asian guys who have done great things. I've got the white guys looking into the white side of the culture. I have like, and there's many things that we don't speak about. So, for example, with the black youth, nobody speaks about the absence of fatherlessness in their community. So I have to speak to them and be like, why is it that in black communities, the father doesn't want to stay there? And there's a huge issue of that. In America, in many places in black neighborhoods, over 70%, or I think
Mm.
80% of young children are born in a fatherless home. Now, then I direct them and I say, look at your music. Why is it the most popular form of hip hop music is revolved around degeneracy?
Mm.
Why is it that women like to be a bad bitch? They like to shake their ass. They like to be a prostitute. They like to know how to, excuse my language, but suck dick the best. Why is it the males like to be a crook? Why is it that they like to be a thief? Why is it they like to be a pimp? Why is it that they like to be a gangster? Because in other honorable cultures, dignified cultures, this is a disgrace. I mean, if somebody was even known, if there was even a conspiracy that this was happening, they would kill themselves.
Mm.
Why is it that you're wearing chain? Why are you so materialistic? Why are these individuals,
So, on
you
that
know?
point, that's quite interesting. How do they react? Because I know this is not mainstream to sort of, again, the idea around, well, it's not an idea; it's a fact that there's a you're more likely to, way more likely to be born outside outside of wedlock if you're from like African American or black communities in the West. What's their reaction? Because I'm sure it's not comfortable for some of these people to hear this stuff. It's not. It's,
It,
'cause they might be from those backgrounds as well. So what's their reaction like?
again, it just depends on the way you say it to them, and like the way I used to do it was very harsh. So I used to just say it without having enough empathy and sympathy to be able to kind of get them
Mm.
to understand in a specific way. If you come out and you say, look, black people are, you know, have lower IQ than everybody in the world, collectively, yes, this is a fact. But if you say it like that, a lot of people will think that this is some form of attack. If you say, for example, Pakistanis have the highest inbreeding rates in the world, yes, this is a fact, but it's like the next question would be, do you hate Pakistanis? If you come out and you say, Afghans are some of the most violent people in the world, this may not be a fact, but in some manners you can subjectively state this opinion. And then again, somebody will come out and say, so and so. If I said white people are some of the most shameless people in the world, again, this is subjective opinion. This isn't a fact because it doesn't have much data with that. But again, if you broke this down, they would think that you're being racist in some ways. So you have to
So,
break
so
it
for you,
down.
is it more about the values that certain people hold? Like, for
For
example,
me,
what? Yeah. Go on, sorry.
for me, it's the basic is that if you know something is degrading in your culture, in your identity, in your background, You have to become aware of it before you can excel
Mm.
upon it. If you are not aware of this, you will not be able to see. It's like if I had shit in my house and I just ignored it and I said, just leave it there. This is a state of mind for me to be able to do this. Before I can remove that shit, I have to know where that poop is. Before I know where that poop is, I have to be able to see it, smell it, pick it up, then dash it out, clean that area. That's how you fix something. So
Mm.
every culture, your culture is the biggest prerequisite to understanding where your problems lie. And to be able to break those chains that have been dropped down to you by many, many, many cultures in the past, from your forefathers, etc., you have to become aware of them. You have to be able to acknowledge them. You don't have to go out there into the world and scream it out at the top of your lungs, but you do have to become aware and accepting of them. And you cannot let cognitive dissonance get in the way just because you're from that people. In the most fundamental way, you should see yourself, if you want to see yourself, as a human being. You shouldn't attach too much to an identity
Yeah.
because you were born there or you're from there, etc.
Yeah, these are
Because the
all
more you
accidental
know,
things about your life. No one chooses the culture they're born into, their skin color.
yeah,
All this is all predetermined, as in like biologically or
yeah,
whatever, or however you want to describe it. But yes, so I guess, and I guess that goes back to what you were saying in your third development of the brain, or the highest stage, which is consciousness. So the highest level of consciousness is to understand that actually I didn't choose any of this. So why am I so attached to a certain culture, religion, whatever you want to call it? Why am I so attached to it? Why am I defending it when actually it's not even serving me? What's the point?
definitely,
Like what?
definitely,
Like like this thing is supposed to serve me. I'm not supposed to serve it. You know.
exactly.
So
And
so that's quite interesting. So okay, so tell me, um, we spoke a lot about culture. Now, what do you think the culture of masculine, like where do you think this that we are in terms of masculinity in the modern world? Like, and I'm going to give this some, I'm going to throw some stuff out there. You've already mentioned transsexual stuff, or you know, the trans community.
you know,
That's happening on one side. On the other side, we have people like Andrew Tate, or this Sigma grind. I don't know, Sigma grind set, alpha male. I'm this. I don't talk to no chicks. Chicks are dispensable. I'll just run through them. No big deal. Um, like I feel like there's more polarization on both ends, which is like, you know, where do you find the balance? Where do you strike, or where do you draw the line in terms of what a man is, or do you think that every man should be able to decide for themselves as to what kind of person they want to be?
I mean, in this day and age, I feel like many people do that anyway. But to objectively abide by what is true and what is the greatest individual, there's some rules and regulations to it. One, again, you made an example of Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate, without a doubt, is a masculine individual. I mean, if you look at the points that he holds, he's strong, he's physically adept,
Yeah.
he's he used to kickbox at a high level in his category, whatever that was, and he attains a lot of possessions, which translate to wealth, monetary wealth. He has a very, very strong relationship with his brother, and he understands enough to be able to speak well enough to be able to, from a distant place, try and mentor or guide or have a positive impact on many people that look at him. He does have extremely fundamental flaws that do not correlate with masculinity. One of them is he's a major conniving liar, and the way that he lies is some of the most intelligent people in the world are some of the best liars. And what they do is they manipulate individuals, the masses, especially when they have lots of influence. They manipulate them whichever way they can to attain power, glory, wealth, and so on. And there was a time, I think around the pandemic time, from what I can remember, that he was locked off all the social media sites. He got kicked off of Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and so on and so forth. And he's money making ways to, you know, basically be like a cuck, where he puts his baby mothers and the mothers of his own children. In his own words, he's got 10 different children from 10 different women. All these women, they would be on OnlyFans and these prostitute, these porn websites,
Mm.
selling themselves. And from his own mouth, he said he'd be there behind the keyboard flirting with males that would pay just to see his, you know, baby mothers' tits and doing random things like playing with one another and stuff. This is the definition of a cuck. This is the definition of a beta man. This is a disgrace upon humanity. If any man, if you were my distant friend and you said to me that you was doing this to your sister, your mother, your wife, the mother of your children, I would say you are a disgrace. If anybody around me was to do that, no matter what kind of money, no matter what car they drove, because this it doesn't matter. The greatest honor a man can have is in complete nakedness. And when I mean nakedness, that means that he doesn't have anything that he can say, this is me, but this is me. Tell me how I am. And in that regard, you are pure. You are real. This is true confidence. When he said, like, you got to understand the psychology of it as well. When he says that I can't even sit down without a coffee, I need to drink like 15 coffees a day. This
Mm.
is a mental illness. To drink 15, when I drink even two cups of coffees, I'm running up and down like a Duracell battery. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I'm constantly like jittery, and you're not supposed to be drinking that much coffee. When you're there constantly smoking cigars the whole time, this is ridiculous. This is a state of mind that needs to constantly be pleasured to feel okay. When he says he can't even put headphones in because he gets constant anxiety looking around because he feels like he's going to be stabbed, this is an anxiety. And I know some people have anxiety, etc. And this is nothing against them. But there's only a specific type of man or woman that has anxiety. Anxiety is fear. Fear is not knowing the unknown. And when you're constantly getting anxiety, this is not a healthy state of mind. When an individual proudly states that he wants to teach men how to put their girlfriends on OnlyFans, this is not a honorable masculine state of mind. This is
So,
a
how do you? So, having said all of that, don't you find it ironic that he's become a poster boy for a lot of the Muslim youth?
yes,
So,
because
so having done all the work in the, this is what I was saying. I remember I was speaking to Haris and Armin about this, and he was, and I was saying he made a lot of his money in gambling and like OnlyFans or webcam industry, and then he becomes the poster boy for masculinity, and then for like a more conservative brand of Islam or sort of this macho kind of thing. I'm like, bro, he made all his money on this thing. Now he said, oh, he's forgiven now because he said the shahada, so all of his sins are wiped away. Which is great, yeah, which is a great, get out clause, whatever it is. But um, I guess when people, I'm just putting out the opposite argument, and I like to hear your opinion. Is because there was such a lack of masculinity or masculine figures, because the supply was so low in sort of normal pop culture on YouTube, that the moment someone comes out and says, or an anecdote comes out and is what he is, then all of a sudden people flock to him. Like you were saying, there are many good things about him, but there's a lot of bad stuff that people are willing to forgive because there's such a lack of positive masculine figures who are unapologetic without and also genuine, right, and have done things the right way. So then, when you have such a low supply of something, then you'll go for whatever's available. And he was available at the time. He was very clever in terms of his marketing or the YouTube shorts, Instagram shorts. He was literally unavoidable. It was on the everywhere you looked, he was there. So clearly very smart. And I think he pounced onto something at the right time and really really blew up. But yeah, I think
he would have been
it's
famous in any place, any time, because he has that charisma and intelligence. Anytime a
he's
man
obviously
has,
smart, and he's obviously
yeah,
like he's funny. Like he's
yeah,
funny in terms
yeah,
when
yeah,
when he's
definitely.
being silly, he's funny, right?
He's
So
got
he's
a
clearly
strong
got that humor.
character.
Yeah,
He's got a
actually,
strong
you
and
can't deny that. You can't deny that.
no, that's what I'm saying. You have to accept what is true and what is not. So at the end of the day, absolutely, that's what I said at the beginning. Is he a masculine to many
Yeah.
people? To over 98% of men, if you show him this guy and you let him speak in front of them, because 98% of men are worse than a goat's dick. You can't expect them to understand what a man is. They're just. When I see men nowadays, when I just look at them, I'm more ashamed for them than they are of themselves. You
Mm.
know, the other day, just to give an example, somebody, I was speaking to one guy. I think he's like 21, and he's like 6'4" or something. And he said how his sister tried to commit suicide. And I told him, "You're a fucking disgrace. How could she not commit? If I was your brother, I would want to commit suicide as well. You are a disgrace." And he's like, "How is this my fault?" I was like, "Exactly, you little bitch. How is it not your fault when you're not even aware? You are the male, you're the leading brother, you're the older brother in the family, right? Do you not take some accountability? I know my sister would never commit suicide. I know nobody would commit suicide. Even somebody that has a walk past me, they would never want to commit suicide. But you live in the same home as your sister, and she's there trying to commit suicide. Do you not take accountability as a man to say that, could I have been even better towards my sister, to guide her, to be there for her, to educate her, to elevate her? So that never comes into her mind, you disgraceful weasel. And it hit him, and he's like, "Yeah, I think I could." Yeah, exactly. How could society not crumble with your type of guy? You're 6'4". 2,000 years ago, they would have wrote stories about you saying that I saw Goliath. And here, your pathetic ass can't even stop your sister from committing suicide because you're such a disgrace. And yes, he would be a masculine figure to most individual, but most individuals are in pathetic states. Again, they lack the intelligence or the ability to comprehend and see what is right and what is not, and be able to understand much deeper as to what an individual's purpose is. He's got more influence than probably any man in the world right now. Maybe
Probably.
not now, but maybe like 2 years ago when he was really big. What did he do? Me, I'm not comparing myself on me. I'm a nobody on an objective world scale. I don't have even a gram of the influence that he has, but I'm able to take out at least 50 young guys out abroad. I'm able to take out at least 100 guys abroad. I'm able to bring hundreds of guys out in the UK to elevate them in every single way. Get them to read books, get them to have more respect for women, get them to have more respect for their families, get them to be physically more adept, get them to understand what boxing or wrestling or MMA is, get them to be more educated about culture. He can't even say any of these things. You can't just be some clown on YouTube speaking like some fool, like just saying things, and then you don't even know who you're helping. You don't even know what you're trying to say, because those can be subjectively taken in. You've got something called the war room, but the war room, the main purpose is to how to make people money, and the way you help people make money is with pimping hose degrees. Now, then you convert it to Islam, which I don't even believe he's a Muslim, because his closest brother, his best friend, the person that like in his own words, he's the only person he trusts in the world, is a Christian. And in Islam, even if you are a Christian and they're not willing to accept Islam, you're supposed to turn your back on them, because in the long state, they're going to go to hell and be tortured for eternity, and you're going to go to heaven. Now, are you that shameless and disgraceful as a brother, or older brother, where you know that your younger brother's going to go to hell and you're not going to help him become a Muslim? Or are you really not a Muslim and you're just using religion like the intelligent politicians do to control and manipulate specific people that are already mentally not the sharpest individuals, and you're using their state of beliefs to gain more money for yourself? Because I've never heard him say that the most important thing a man can do is pray 5 times a day. Because my man, even as a Muslim, he came out with his own philosophy, Tateism, the 100 tenets of Tate. And then he's there, like nothing from the Quran, nothing from the Hadiths. Tate, Tate, Tate. Like this guy is a definition of what a cult leader would be.
Mm.
He's a complete narcissistic, completely delusional individual that is stuck up his own whatever. And just prior to him becoming famous, if you see some of the tweets, you'd think that there's something called having the God complex, where you literally think you're like God. And these are the most delusional people that like to put other people down around them to make themselves feel better, which is why there's videos of him beating his own baby mothers. And then he came out and got them women to say, yeah, we were just playing. Why would you put that on video? Why would you need to ever beat a woman like that to make them feel good? And if a woman requires to be beaten to be sexually aroused, there's something mentally wrong with her. They've clearly gone through so much abuse and trauma that they're associating those traumas with what is love, but that is not true. That is not true. You're supposed to teach them a more gentle form of way, a better way. But again, somebody who's never gets women or never gets attention, when they see that alpha male, because in their own way they've been rejected by women, so in their subconscious state of mind, to put women down, especially good looking women, is a strong male thing. But this
Mm,
isn't. I'll tell you that myself. So
interesting. That's it. That's it.
yeah,
Yeah, I never really thought about the whole dominance thing. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Okay, so that's. Well, I'll ask you one question. I'll just open up so many doors. Okay, cool, awesome. It's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Okay, cool, awesome. So, um, right. So there's okay. So there's the whole thing around masculinity, right? And so, what do you think is the most important thing for if you've got like if you could speak to your 18-year-old self, let's say,
Mhm.
and you could just say and you could only relay one message, what would that message be? Right? You got one message to say.
Don't be too harsh on your brothers. Appreciate your family. Train hard. Listen to your father, because without my father's teachings, I would
Mm,
have lost cause. And just be easy, man. Like don't be upset by certain things that go on in the world, because even as a youth I used to care a bit too much about the issues that exist, and because I didn't have the guidance or the intelligence as much as I should have, it would come out in the wrong manner. So
mm.
uh, yeah, just
Okay.
I
So I've
wish
got
I
one
wish
more question. So go on, yeah.
yeah, I wish I had at that age. I wish. I mean, I used to literally seek it. I wish I had what we have in Jaceen for the youths, what we have for the teenagers and the young guys today, where they're able to come together, be mentored, be educated, be taught, be guided, be taken out across the world, taught about training and health and what to eat, what not to eat, how to think, even to what to invest their money into and stuff. And like the youth that are working with us within Jacine, not one of them, once we take them in, not one of them spends their money on a jacket that costs more than £50 anymore. Not one of
Mm,
them goes out and starts buying colored shoes and belts that cost this one. Not one of them gets them materialistic things anymore. Not one of them starts, for example, addicted to porn. We take them off of that. People that are addicted to sugar, we get them off of that. People that are addicted to degenerate states of being, we take them off of that. Whatever it is that is regressing their minds in any way, we get them guided to the best way of being and the best way of thinking. And I wish I had something like that, but that's why we're here. I feel like because I missed it so much from being a youth, it's one of the major factors for why I've contributed to Jacine itself. And without the teachers and the mentors that have guided me and been able to accept me and teach me, I would be nothing. So I give all credits to them as well.
one thing I would say, and I think this is true for a lot of young guys, um, there is a real lack of positive mentors, male mentors. That everyone has their father, but then you kind of have like a second father who is like kind of not obviously your biological, maybe it could be an uncle or like a martial arts teacher or something else, like a whatever. And it's so important to have those kinds of figures in your life, especially as a young guy. You got all this testosterone, you think you're on top of the world, you're physically fit, you can do crazy crap, and if you don't channel that energy in the right direction, it usually ends up going in the wrong direction. And you, instead of doing constructive things, you end up doing destructive things, and then you have to figure. You spend the next 5 years just trying to undo all the shit you did before.
Mhm.
So you're right. It's not easy being. And again, I'm not trying to remove any accountability, but it's not easy growing up with a strong male figures, not just one, right? I think father is obviously an essential, right? But then there's other people outside who can give you a bit more advice. Because sometimes when you're 18 or whatever, 16 years old, you can get into quite a lot of beef with your father because you're a man now, right? Because you think you're a man, you think you can go gym. So what does your father know? He's just some old 40, 50-year-old guy, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there is that unfortunate natural sort of competitiveness. But you need someone else who could be like, listen, relax, focus on these things, don't get too hyped, right? Just focus on yourself, don't get distracted, put one foot in front of the other. So I would actually agree that we need to be encouraging those sort of conversations amongst men, amongst young guys, to sort of, like you said, all the things that whether it's money or food or porn or there's other things where we spend a lot of time and energy that are basically short-term thinking, right? The short-term, whatever it's pleasure, but actually we have to build ourselves long-term. So no, that's really really interesting. So one more question before, unless it's something else you want to talk about. I think this is really really interesting, um, and that is around. I think someone asked a question here about where do you get your morals from. And I think you kind of already touched upon this earlier in terms of truth and knowledge. But
Yeah.
very briefly, if you could just, I can't remember the question now. There's a question here around. Yeah, here it is. Question for Ace. Where do you get your morals from, and how do you know what's right and wrong? I know it's a very big question. I know we can talk about hours, but if you had to give someone a 2 minute, 3 minute elevator pitch, right? Because that's one of the questions a lot of people who leave religion often get is like, okay, fine, you left religion, big deal. Why is it wrong to kill? Why is it wrong to do whatever? Why is it objectively wrong?
Obviously, the deeper analysis of this will come when when people come to the camp and they're educated on these things. But in basic terms, you have to understand what is righteous. If something is righteous, then it's always morally sound. If something is not righteous, then it's in the absence of its morals. So killing somebody would be taking somebody's life. Taking somebody's life has no purpose except for your own egotistical reasonings, and objectively, this is wrong to do. There's no righteous side of killing somebody. Some raping somebody, again, you're doing something by force. Force is the absence of freedom. Knowledge,
Mm,
as we understood, is freedom. In the absence of freedom, is the absence of freedom, which is wrong, which is enslavement, and forcing somebody to do something like that is wrong. Being a weak, pathetic male is goes away from your character. Why? Because the purpose of a male is to protect, to guide, to elevate, just like it is for a female. And when you go against these ways, it's unhealthy. It breaks down your freedom. It breaks down your essence of your purpose. This is immoral. Anything that is in the absence of truth is immoral. Everything that correlates and flows with truth is righteous and by definition moral.
that's a very,
Again,
very, very interesting answer. And I think that's what it comes down to. Again, what is true,
yeah,
and to understand or even to begin that journey of what is true. Anyone who has done any level of self-development, growth, reflection, whatever you want to call it, it always starts with yourself. Forget about everyone else. It always starts with what you believe about yourself and what you believe about the world, your behaviors, your habits, all those things. Is it actually good for you? Do these things, are they a coping mechanism, right? Or are they actually elevating you to a higher form of existence or being, whatever it may be? And it's not easy, but like you said, you're better than yourself yesterday, but you're not better than who you are tomorrow. Oh yeah,
yeah.
so
That's the
that's the
consistent
path.
That's the consistent adaptation and evolution that we're trying to take, and it's some of the things that we do in our camps. I mean, with our camps, what we do is we take first of all the basic of what we do. And I'll just give you a quick breakdown. The basic of what we do is, if you've seen some of the training sessions we have, right?
Yeah.
So we get at least 50 to 100 plus people coming through. So we get them to come through, and the basic of principle of every male is to be physically healthy. Even animals are physically healthy. In the wild, you don't find a obese monkey or
Mm.
whatever, right? So the basic is them to become physically healthy, and the way that we do that is we test them strength and conditioning. We teach them things with when it comes to combat sport. We teach them team sports and so on. And this is the basics. So once they get to a certain level, I mean, their physical health directly correlates with their mental health as well. It directly impacts their mental health. So somebody who's more physically healthy, more physically adept, especially in combat sports, is a lot more disciplined, a lot more dedicated, can have a lot more tenacity, can push themselves further than somebody who's weak, pathetic, and very withdrawn in that way. Now, being pathetic doesn't mean that you've lost all credits. It just means that you have much to grow on. So that's the basic. Once we get them on through that, and we see some of the individuals that have potential, we say to them, "Look, are you ready to be mentored directly?" With this mentoring comes with the educational part, which is where we tell them, "Look, start reading some of these books. Look into this book. Look into this." For example, recently I was speaking to some of the black students, and it's a shame, but a lot of black students don't even know who Thomas Sankara was. He was a great, great individual from Burkina Faso who was able to revolutionize his nation and his people and elevate them substantially from the place that they was at, educate them and bring reforms in that impacted society and so on and so forth. And it's a shame that a lot of black youth don't know who that is. They know the basics of Martin Luther King, but when you ask him, what did Martin Luther King? They're completely clueless, and so on and so forth. So you have to educate them on these individuals that did great things, and you got to ask them, what is the difference between you to do that? Alexander the Great was able to take over an entire empire at the age of 21. Would you be able to at least come into community with other strong men at your age and be able to physically train and read and eat healthy, the basics? You know, an animal can do this. Are you able to do this? Are you able to be disciplined? Are you able to not be addicted to your phone? Are you able to come off of social media instead of constantly clicking away and getting arthritis in your fingers? These are the basics. Once they get to this state, then that's where we can invite them out to the camps. The camps is where we take individuals out and we take them through all sorts of hardship, all sorts of growth, all sorts of elevation. So we're doing a camp at the end of July, beginning of August, and we're looking to take at least 300 young guys out
Wow.
to the Highlands in Scotland. And we're going to be doing a whole week of wild camping. So we're going to be in tents, and I mean, nobody's ever done this where they've taken this amount of people out to a wild area to camp under one discipline, under one guidance, to dedicate themselves to objective growth amongst one another. So we'll be having constant fire, like camping fires. We'll have like 6 groups of 50 individuals each, and we're looking at a minimum of 300 guys. And we're going to be doing all sorts of things like sword training. We're going to be doing knife throwing. We're going to be doing air rifle shooting, target practice. We're going to be doing boxing. We're going to be doing MMA. We're going to be doing wrestling. We're going to be doing cold water training because we've got the locks out there and stuff. We're going to be doing lots of like barbecues and hiking and all sorts of aspects that really push these guys mentally, physically, and consciously. And at the same time, they're going to be away from all the addictions and all the issues that they have back home. They're going to be surrounded by males that only want the best from them and will push them consistently as well. And in this regard, it really is a unique experience for these individuals, and they're able to excel incredibly. And when we come back, all these individuals have got a whole bunch of friends that they can trust, that they can care about, that they love, all individuals that want the best for them. Then we can sit down and even speak about the business side of things, speak about the working side of things, the financial aspects. Because just to give you a basic, let's say you have a good idea to sell something on Amazon. Now in Jaceen, we've got, like, when we bring all the guys in, we've got about 200 guys. But let's say by summertime we get about 500 because we're growing really well now. So let's say by summer we got 500 guys, and you bring these guys close enough together, like the way that our goals are. Let's say you have an idea to sell something on Amazon and it costs £10. The first thing that all the 500 guys will do within our community in the first month is to buy directly off you on Amazon. Each person will spend max £50 in a whole month. 500 times 50 is how much? 25,000? £25,000 you've made with 500 five-star reviews, with 500 videos of your product. You'll go directly up to the top of the listings globally. Any product you go on Amazon and you see 500 five-star reviews, is saying 8,000 sold in a month, 5,000, at least 1,000 sold in a month. If you've got 500 five-star reviews, now you give it out to the public. Now you've got a 10, £20,000 a month business flowing just like that because of the beginning of your community. Now we go to the next guy. Okay, you sell this. Let's open up an Amazon account for you as well because Amazon is the largest trading business ground in the world. Why not take advantage of that as well? The beauty of a community is extremely powerful. If we wanted to go out there and protest and we were to take 200 guys, strong guys, the way that we are out there, it will have the impact of 10,000 men that are walking around with blue hair and shit. If I was to go tomorrow to Hyde Park's corner and I bring my guys, that whole place will be a shutdown. You won't be seeing the little 5 foot tall guys with the glasses, mouth breathing out their mouth, not knowing what the difference between right and wrong is. So these are all intelligent,
just just
educated,
just that point.
healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, these
Have
are
you
all
ever considered?
intelligent, healthy,
Yeah.
strong, educated, masculine individuals that are coming together, that care about one another, that love one another, that want to, elevate one another.
Yeah.
And we are going to make some big amounts of noise coming. Right now, our
Yeah.
goal is to stay very silent, to keep working under the radar. But trust me, by next year, 2025, if Joe Rogan is not calling me onto his show, anyways, we'll
Bro,
be
listen,
speaking.
everyone, you heard it here. You heard it here, Tura. Okay, I just want to say I got there first. Okay,
Yeah,
big announcement for next year. A lot of work's happening. Um, like you said, under the radar, and it seems. I mean, from what I've seen on Instagram and the way you're talking about it, all the things you're doing with these young guys, it seems like it's really, really intellectually, physically, spiritually, whatever, how we or where how we
yeah.
should to describe it. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of growth. Someone's asking about how much will the camp be, or so if someone wants to join the camp, they go on Instagram, right? It's
So yeah, so you need to follow us on Instagram. We don't just sell, like I said, we don't sell the camp when we go abroad or when we do these camps. We don't just sell it to anybody. You have to be a part of Jaceen to be able to be invited. And the way that we do it is we look at the total cost, and like I said, we work as a community. We look at the total cost, and then we split it between the amounts of people that are looking to come. And that's why I'm not I'm not a very wealthy guy. That's why we're able to stay at these crazy mansions and stuff because as a community, it just works out perfectly for us. It's
yeah, you
simple,
just spit
you
it,
know?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, we're always going to have these amazing experiences and be able to um, make it so much easier to access because that's the way that we work. We just see
Yeah.
the collective price and then we split it between the community and
Have
then
you? I know you
simple.
mentioned this before as well. Like, if you were enough speaker, have you ever considered going down to speakers corner with your whole squad, or at least some of your squad?
Yeah, look, right
Because
now,
that would be something, bro. That
I
would be
know, I
something.
know, I know, I know. They're all waiting for it. Look, we'll go there in time. But right now, I've got such important matters to
Mm,
attend to, and the point is, every time I see these guys out in speakers corner, they lack the intelligence of even the logical perspective. So I'm not in a state anymore where I'm there trying to debate simpletons. For somebody to even have like for me to even have a discussion with somebody, they have to have a level 5 intelligence at least for me to make some points and for them to comprehend those
Mm.
points. If they don't have the ability to comprehend certain states of being or certain points, and they're just there like, I beat you, I
Yeah,
contribute.
yeah.
Bro, I'm not there for that, man. I'm here for intellectual
Well, listen,
conversations.
Speaker's Corner isn't
And
only
yeah,
about well, it's not only it's unfortunately got very little to do with actual intellectual conversation. It's more about intimidation, group numbers, sort of these kind of silly
yeah, and that
charts,
wouldn't
silly
work with
playground
my team.
tactics.
That wouldn't my team is a
Bro, that's
monster.
what I'm saying. If
This is
you
what I'm
go
saying.
down with your squad
My
wearing tank tops, I would love to see those guys play the same game. They
Yeah,
will
but
be shitting themselves.
that's the thing. Because if we do that, they're gonna say we came to scare people off.
Yeah, yeah,
Look,
yeah.
I got my team is filled with monsters, man.
Allah.
They're monsters. Like every time we walk, people like random people come up to us and ask us for pictures. They think we're like the Avengers. So it's like we'll go there, but we'll
Just let
see.
them know it. Just let them know.
Yeah,
Listen,
yeah, yeah, of course,
don't
we'll
get too
see.
brave.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Don't try it.
We'll go. We might go shut it down for a day and then just come out. Yeah.
Oh man, that is sick.
I'll hold
All
you
right.
to that. I'll probably go down there this summer. So I'll
Okay.
fill up.
Well,
I'll bring my
let me
guys.
know when you're going down. I'll be
Yeah,
hiding behind all your 6'7" guys, bro.
man, come through, man.
Fantastic. All
Yeah.
right. Also, that sounds great. But listen, I really enjoyed that, and I just wanted to talk about one last thing
Sure,
before we call it wraps, because I can hear my kids screaming.
sure.
Um, this is a whole topic in itself, but I just want you to tease this. Okay,
Mhm.
Israel Palestine. I know
Okay.
last time we spoke,
Yeah,
you said some pretty strong stuff as well, and I was
yeah,
like, damn, you're saying it so clearly.
yeah.
To be honest with you, I felt like my opinion has become even stronger. So, like in terms of like pro Israel, or
Mhm.
I'm anti the current Palestinian whatever movement you want to call it, because I don't think
Mhm.
it is much of a. It's not. I don't think it's a movement that's actually interested in any kind of peace or any kind of progress at all. A lot of it is obsessed with the destruction of Jews or Israel or whatever you want to call it. A lot of it is violence, and but that's my opinion. What do you think? Just I know I've opened up a whole can of worms, but if you can,
Sure, sure.
just
I'll keep it simple. Obviously, this is a very deep subject
very
for
deep.
many people. One, one. At the end of the day, you can whether people would like to admit this or not. The Prophet, peace be upon him, one of these very well known hadiths, he states that the end of time
Hmm.
and the last hour will not come until all the Jews are basically hunted down and executed.
It was the even the rock or stone will say there's a Jew behind
Yeah.
me, something like
And
that. Yeah,
and sometimes, I mean, we know what this means, and sometimes you see on Twitter, for example, on X, whatever you want to call it, and
yeah.
you see individuals that are from that faith, and they say, "Don't worry, the rocks will be speaking soon." And again, these
That's
individuals,
crazy.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
and these again, this is what I'm talking about. This is the reptilian state of mind, because to actually think that a rock will speak,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous. No rock is gonna ever speak. But again, they don't even have that state of mind. And when you think of the fact that the way the prophet died, it was under the hands of a Jewish woman. She poisoned him basically, and Muhammad himself has got hadith stating that in Islam is there's hadith stating that I will make sure that I expel all the Jews from Arabia, and he did do that because there's no Jews in Arabia now.
No.
And when you look at all the Arab countries, there was a strong population of Jews in all of them. Now there's very minimal. So after World War II, what happened is Palestine has never actually existed, truly.
No.
It's never actually been a nation. They've never had a president or prime minister. Even the flag that is so
It's a
put
Euro.
up by
It's a Euro. Yeah, exactly. It was created by the Europe. Yeah.
British made flag. The
Yeah. Yeah.
British made the flag. So in 1948, I've stated this before, that two main countries were created from a religious perspective. One was Pakistan, which was for the Muslims in between India and Afghanistan. and that was made as a colonial state by the British. And the second one was Israel, which was created by the British again because they believed that the Jews had a hegemony for an area to call them their own, a state that could be a Jewish state and called Israel, and they gave them that state. Prior to this happening, it was called the Mandate of Palestine, the British Mandate of Palestine.
Yeah.
And what happened is that the UN
So,
convent the sorry, go ahead.
just because my wife is calling me, sorry.
Sure.
Um, if it, very quickly, very quickly, quick fire round. In 50 years' time, will we still be speaking about the conflict of Israel Palestine?
As long as you got Palestinians believing that that land belongs to them because of their religious perspectives, and as long
Then
as
yes.
there's Jews, of course it will. At the end of the day, Israel is a democratic nation, the only democratic nation in that whole peninsula, in that whole area. And the Jews, whether you admit it or not, in the Quran even it says the people of Israel. They even accept that there's a people of Israel.
Mm,
Nowhere in the Quran does it say anything about Palestine.
no, it doesn't.
Nowhere
No,
in the Hadith does it
no.
say anything
Funny,
about
yeah, that's it.
Palestine.
That's the irony. That's the irony.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there's nothing that says Palestinian nationalities and the nationalism started in the late 20th centuries, I think in the 1930s and so on.
Mm,
And what happened is, at the end of the day, the Palestinian and the Arabs collectively created a war against the Israelites from 1948 and then again in 1967.
yeah.
Both times when the UN came together and said, look, we're going to partition and make a two-state place. This place is going to be for the Arabs and this place will be for the Jews. That
Yeah.
the Jews accepted it, the
But
Israelites
they,
accepted it,
yeah.
the Jews did not accept it, and that's when they went to war against Israel. That's where they're saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, meaning
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
complete
Destruction of the whole. Exactly.
destruction of the Jews. And when it states this in the Hadith, when it tells you in the Quran that your worst enemy is this and so on, and you can't ever trust a Jew and a Christian, this is why I say that religion itself, it makes us go against one another. And as long
Absolutely.
as the people of that place are religiously fundamental to that, and the people of, because even Judaism is a degenerate religion. But
Mm.
the difference is most Jews don't say, we're waiting for the Messiah and things like that. That's just those guys that are actually standing with Palestine saying it because they believe that sooner or later the Messiah is going to come. Then everybody who's non-Jew will become a slave to the Jews, and
Oh,
then they
okay.
will take over the third temple. But Jews, modern Jews, most of them are
They don't
atheists.
do that kind of stuff.
They
Yeah.
don't believe in that stuff. They just believe that they need a nation that has been given to them legally
Where
from
they can feel safe.
1948,
Where they
where
can
they
feel.
can feel safe because
That's it.
everywhere
Yeah.
else there's
It's persecuted. Yeah.
conspiracies and hate against them and so on and so forth. And I believe one tiny Jewish nation in the middle of many Muslim nations, all the way from North Africa to Iraq to all of these places, which did come from Arab colonialism and Islamic colonialism when you think about it, because the Arabs never existed in North Africa. It was the Berbers and the black
Yeah.
tribes, and then they came over, wiped them out, turned them into slaves, and so on. And
Absolutely. No, I'm with
so,
you, bro.
yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah,
So
man,
listen, bro. I would love to go on, but unfortunately, I've got to wrap it up. Babies are
yeah, man. We
crying.
can talk for days.
That's
We
the
need to
real war
pack it.
zone out there
Yeah,
right now. It's the babies. Anyway,
excellent, no
but anyway, bro,
problem.
listen, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you,
Really, really happy to see where you, all the work you're doing right now, where you're at right now, the impact you're having. We'll catch up very
thank you,
soon, guys. If you haven't already, follow Ace on Instagram. Check out the camps. I know there's some people here that are interested in that. Final shout out for the webinar. If you haven't already, please do sign up. I've left a link in the description of this channel. I will see you guys very, very soon. I've got another live stream next week, so we'll continue the conversation there. But from me and Ace, peace.
thank you very much. Appreciate it,
Absolute
man.
pleasure, bro.
Have
Cheers.
a good day. Love,
You
man.
too. Bro. Bye.